Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to sit down with Jeff Batwell, and he's going to go over the eTrac Carrier Network, what it is, what it does, and how it can benefit your business. So without further ado, meet Jeff.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you for the introduction, and hello, everyone. My name is Jeff Batwell. I'm the National Sales Director for our eTrac solution, and excited today to be talking to you about the eTrac solution, and especially about the carrier partner program that's part of our eTrac, and about the carrier network we have. So very excited to dive in and give you a better explanation of what this carrier network is all about and how it could benefit you. Let's dive into a little bit the different ways that people, retailers, shippers are reaching the final mile. And traditionally, a lot of shippers in the past have always relied on their own asset-based delivery fleet to manage this segment of the supply chain, this last mile, this final mile segment. Pretty popular in the beginning, really, because it gave them the ultimate control over how those deliveries are going to be routed, how those deliveries were going to be executed, and especially the customer service, the delivery service, which is so important in today's world with the expansion of e-commerce and really driving that customer service message all the way from when that client or that customer buys the product all the way down to the delivery side. Obviously, there's some constraints there with the asset-based model. One is internal costs are usually typically pretty high. The ability to manage driver turnover has been a big issue, over the last few years. Drivers are hard to come by, and especially when you have that turnover. So managing that also increases the cost. And the ability to flex an asset-based model. When you go through your peak seasons, the retailers and shippers that we're experiencing nowadays, during your low volume periods, you have to be able to flex that capacity, flex that driver pool up and down, and it becomes a little bit difficult with the asset model. Along came, traditionally the 3PL, third-party logistic provider, providing final mile work for the retailer and shippers. So this was a good way for a lot of retailers and shippers to add additional capacity beyond their own asset-based fleet, utilizing the third-party logistic providers. And the benefit of a 3PL is really they're managing the different modes of the supply chain in a lot of cases, from the air, ocean, import or export side of the house there, all the way to the line haul move, whether it's a truckload or LTL move. And now the 3PLs have gotten into providing that last mile service, that final mile service, whether it's in the home type assembly service to high volume parcel residential delivery type service. Again, this adds the ability for that shipper to have some flexibility. It inches away a little bit from the control of that shipper, having the control over that delivery quality, over that delivery service. So that's something that folks look at a little bit. And you're also going to see a little bit added cost there just due to the nature of a 3PL. A lot of times a 3PL, to manage this final mile work, will be using, in some cases, their own asset fleet, but in a lot of cases, they're also going to your local P&D carriers, third-party carriers, to kind of manage that work a little bit. So you'll see some additional margin there. Anyway, 3PLs, a great asset to use, and it's been widely used for many, many, many years to manage that full supply chain. Along the way, what you've seen a lot of these shippers do is utilizing a mix of the asset base, bringing in the 3PL providers to help manage other different aspects of the supply chain. But as it gets into the final mile, you see them inching away to capture a little bit more control over that service, over that delivery service. The national carrier became a real utilized tool out there for these shippers. And the national carriers are very large carriers. They control multiple markets, or they can manage multiple markets on the shipper's behalf. And in a lot of cases, a shipper now, as they're building a final mile or residential delivery program, can just minimize how many carriers they're using. They can go to one or two to really capture the entire country. Now, good thing about utilizing this type of carrier is you push the flexibility need to that carrier. Those carriers will manage the flexibility, they'll manage the capacity on your behalf. But again, not full control there. Most of these large national carriers, again, are using, just like the 3PL, are using a lot of local P&D carriers to manage the work on your behalf. And a very good service offering that they provide, but you will lose a little bit of that branding, that customer service aspect that is obviously key in a lot of shippers' business today. And as well, you'll also be tackling a little bit additional margin involved in terms of cost there. Now we kind of get into the last point I wanted to make, is kind of what eTrac is really set up to do. What we're kind of really doing over here is diving all the way down to those local P&D carriers. In some cases, they're regional carriers, to really provide the ultimate control for a retailer, for a shipper, and in a lot of cases for a 3PL, to be able to provide them access to these local carriers, so now they can control that customer service all the way down to the driver level in a lot of cases, and control cost in that way. eTrac was designed from the beginning to provide visibility all the way down to this local level. It's always been a hurdle, I think, really up to the last couple of years, of getting any kind of visibility all the way down to the local carrier that's working, right into that local market and knows that market. So typically that's why they've gone through some of the other routes that we talked about. Now with the eTrac solution, we can really provide that visibility to the retailer, to the shipper, to the 3PL, so they can get full visibility on what's going on at this local level, and also have the direct relationship with that carrier at the local level to control the customer delivery experience, to control that customer service, which is so important, and control cost with the different volume that could be utilized here. These local carriers that we're talking about here, there are thousands of these carriers out there. And like I said, there's multiple carriers working in any given market. They're in all your secondary, tertiary markets as well, which, as most shippers realize, not only do they need to cover the major markets, they need to cover all markets in the country, especially with the ability for shoppers to go online and be able to purchase from any point, any place they live, whether it's urban or rural areas out there. So going back, eTrac is really designed to help connect these regional carriers, these local carriers, really allowing the shipper to get access all the way down to the driver level, to the local delivery carrier level. Kind of hit on it. Why go with a multi-carrier network? Well, like I said, it provides control. I mean, I think that's the main thing to think about, and what shippers and retailers are thinking about today. How can I gain more control over this delivery experience? Well, first of all, it's agility. When you need to grow into a new market, a lot of times if you have access to these local carriers. You can quickly speed up. You can quickly ramp up a driver pool in that market, so you can get your service offering, you can get your product there, or you can get your service level up and running in no time at all. And you can pivot, whether you're working in one market and you need to change due to what's going on in the economy or based on where you're getting the best sales. Working with these multiple carriers allows you to pivot very quickly in different markets that you want to serve, but also allows you to change and add service levels. We'll get into talking about the different types of services that these local carriers do, from white glove deliveries on the furniture side of the house, to pharmaceutical deliveries, to your same day, next day deliveries on the parcel side. So it gives you, connecting into these local providers gives you a lot of range in where to set up your delivery, but also the types of services that you can offer for your customer. Capacity is another big one. We talked about that before. Flexing your capacity during peak times, but then also not having to foot the bill for a very large fleet when you go through your low volume periods. Connecting to these carriers provides that right off the bat. These carriers flex themselves the way they're set up with their driver pools. They're experts in managing these drivers. They're experts in knowing when the different seasons hit for their customers. So the shipper and the retailer tapping into that gives them great flexibility to flex up and flex down when needed, therefore minimizing costs in the long run for the shipper and then ultimately the shipper's customer. And then better service. It all comes down to the customer delivery experience. Nowadays, with why final mile is so important, is that retailer, that shipper, that last person that delivers the product to the customer is really the last touch point that the retailer, the shipper has with that customer. So that it's a very crucial point in a delivery that can make or break the customer experience. So these local providers are keyed into that, and they realize the amplitude of what their drivers are doing, how their drivers are going about it, and how their drivers are interacting with these customers. Now, with giving the ability for that shipper to tap directly into these local markets allows that shipper to relay the type of experience that they want their customers to receive through these local carriers. So it gives, again, giving that control, which helps drive the right customer service, the right customer experience to the end buyer for better customer service, to improve that and to grow that. Now, as you go about, trying, as many folks today have an existing network of carriers or utilizing, whether it's asset-based, whether it's utilizing some 3PLs in some markets, whether it's going to the national carrier level, these large carriers to manage work, and also they're utilizing some of the local carriers out there. In a sense, it is good to have this mix to really support your delivery operations. One thing, working with these local P&D guys, that's really what it's about. That's what eTrac solution is really about, is to help the visibility side and connect these guys directly into your systems, into your customer experience. So the idea is continue to utilize your network, but expand upon it, right? Bring in these local carriers to assist in some markets that you need assistance in, flexing capacity like we talked about, being agile, maneuvering into new markets and getting ramped up in a timely way, and also improve customer service. So this is a good way to add to your existing fleet, bring it all into one house. And one thing eTrac really does, and really the core of eTrac, is to aggregate all that information, aggregate all that visibility into a single connection point. We talk about growing or building your current final mile carrier base, and this is one of the biggest sidebars, I would say, to the eTrac platform, realizing that we not only needed to provide visibility, we need to help introduce our eTrac clients into this vast final mile local carrier market. As I mentioned, there's thousands of carriers and they handle all different types of work, and they're utilizing all different types of systems. So it's very fragmented out there, fragmented market, and it can really bog down a shipper when they're trying to grow this piece of business and they want to connect to the local carrier. So that's one of the things we're looking to do, is to help that introduction process, to help build your experience on who those local carriers are and the types of work that they do. So the eTrac network. So as I mentioned, as eTrac's core business is providing visibility and aggregating that visibility through one connection point, well, we realized, as I just mentioned, that we needed to provide additional service to help our shippers, help our retailers, help our 3PLs learn who these local carriers are throughout the country. So we started to build a database of local final mile carriers, started to capture what the areas that they service, the service levels that they offer, the service types they offer, their number of drivers, some high level information that can really help a shipper understand who these guys are and be able to find which carrier is going to fit their operations the best. We started growing this carrier base, this database, and it's really expanded. I think today we're over 2,700 in our database of these local carriers, some regional carriers that are ready to be introduced to shippers that are looking for that business and looking really to serve the shipper world. The great thing about these carriers is all the different services that they offer, and it really is across the board, from providing warehousing space. We talk about a lot of the micro warehousing out there that retailers are looking for. All of these local carriers are expanding what they offer, and a lot of them are buying those facilities so they can be a forward stocking inventory. They can build that distribution network into those local markets that shippers could tap into. White glove become very popular today with that, especially in the furniture world, with bringing that product into a house and assembling it. A lot of these local final mile carriers are offering that service, but they offer this range of same day, threshold, even drayage we're seeing pop up as one of the services that these final mile local carriers offer, from picking up at a port and getting it into the closest next market. Just goes to show the growing aspect of these carriers really becoming very robust in the terms of what they're doing, really sound in the service that they offer, and really technical in terms of the different systems that they're using to execute all this. One of the things we talked about is being agile, right? Being able to pivot in terms of where you want to service your deliveries, but also the types of services. So you can go through the eTrac carrier network to find carriers that offer hazardous material delivery, that might offer drayage, that might offer a pharmaceutical delivery system, as well as postal injection, same day, next day that we just talked about. So utilizing these carriers can ramp you up very quickly, very scalable, to be able to offer that service to the customer. We talk about how to onboard. That's always been a challenge for retailers, shippers, 3PLs, one, in knowing who these carriers are, which carrier fits. That's always the biggest question, and that's crucial to find the right carrier that fits with your operations, that's going to fit with what you're providing and what you're offering. This is, again, one of the services that eTrac really specializes in helping that process. First and foremost, our clients, we want our clients to have the ultimate control. They're going to make the final decision on who to onboard, how to onboard, pricing, all of those key items that really we feel that the eTrac client needs the control, right, to get exactly what they want. Where we come in is in the introduction process. We come in the education and introduction process of who these carriers are, what services do they offer, and be able to match that with what a shipper is looking for right off the bat. Very streamlined and quick process. So now the shipper can go through the process of identifying the right fit and the right carrier. So typically how it works is our eTrac clients will come to us with a high level requirements on what they're looking for, the markets they're looking to provide in, the different types of services they're looking, if they need warehousing space, those types of things. We'll take that information, we'll run it through our database, and we'll be able to filter out and provide a list of carriers that match that initial requirement. And then we start the introduction process, introducing the eTrac client to each and every one of these final mile carriers to start that conversation, and again, to determine if it's the right fit for that business. And ultimately, the shipper is going to determine and execute a contract with these local carriers. Our goal is to introduce as many carriers that fit that shipper need as possible. We're agnostic in that sense. And again, our goal is really to support the shipper and help them in any way we can to help find the right fit. Then we come to, again, a core value of eTrac and all the services that eTrac provides. So an eTrac client, first and foremost, they have access to a local final mile P&D carrier network. It's going to give them the greatest control. It's going to allow them to dictate the type of customer service, the type of delivery experience that their customers truly want. It's going to minimize the cost overall. And the biggest challenge in all that is visibility. And that's where eTrac really comes in, providing the true visibility for a shipper to a network of final mile carriers. It's all done through one integration. eTrac has gone out connecting to these carriers. We know who these carriers are. We know how they operate. And more importantly, we know how their systems operate. So we can capture the real-time visibility out of all of those carriers and aggregate that into a single integration point into a shipper. And that can be into a shipper's TMS system. It can be into any type of operating system that shipper is operating out of. And that's a great thing, leveraging carrier technology. You know, the biggest thing that we realize here at eTrac is we want to connect directly into the systems that the local carrier is using today. We don't want to force them on another system. We want the best compliance, and we want streamlined process. We don't want to complicate the process. We've always taken that train of thought and that track of directly integrating into the local carrier's operating system, dispatching system, and then providing that visibility in aggregate across the shipper's entire network back into any system that the shipper is using to manage his fleet. And we do it on a scalable process. We have our scalable process results in much faster implementation typically than a shipper trying to handle it with limited IT resources, all the ins and outs of integrating into this final mile space. Again, very fragmented, multiple systems they're going to have to integrate to. This is what eTrac has kind of captured. We've done a lot of these integrations already. We're always integrating to new final mile systems out there, really for the shipper's benefit, to really improve that integration speed, improve the process, and streamline the data. And that's, the carrier program, again, a big part of what we're doing here over at eTrac. From the beginning, every eTrac client had just jumped in using this additional service. One, it's benefiting the agents. It's getting the exposure for these final mile carriers to the shippers, and then providing that service to the shippers so they can really get to know who these carriers are. And then we can handle the connectivity to them, again, at a much faster pace than seen before. And again, we're here, eTrac is here to streamline the process on the shipper's end, as well as streamline the process on the agent's end, the final mile carrier's end, and help them come together to really provide that overall customer experience to the ultimate customer, to the buyer out there. So I appreciate everybody listening into this. We're excited that we're in this space. We're excited to be growing along with the shippers out there, and we look forward to serving you here in the near future and helping you connect into the final mile network.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for listening in. More resources can be found on the eTrac Final Mile website, as well as in the notes below. If you have any questions, make sure you head to the eTrac Final Mile website and then you can ask them there. Thank you.